right around Huntley. He reaches. Oh, that ball's out. That's live. Back the other way. Sam Hubbard, the Cincinnati Kid. Hubbard's got a convoy. Chased by Andrews. At the 30, the 20. He will score.
To the end zone, down the field, and it is deflected and gone. Touchdown, A.J. Green.
Over goes back to throw. Men are coming late. Looks right down the middle. There is Eddie Brown. He has it at the 35 to the 30. He may go 10-5. Touchdown.
Now the Bengals Super Bowl chances rest on his right foot. The kick is up.
Yeah.
It is good.
Corey Dillon, he's gone. The knockout punch, you're looking at it. 65 yards.
And they're back to throw as the blitz is on. Goes long, intended for Collinsworth. He has it down to the 20. Touchdown. And Chris Collinsworth.
Throwing the long ball, deep down the field. Trav Johnson's got it. Touchdown, Cincinnati.
Look at Chase go. Oh my goodness, what a gear he just found. Chase for the touchdown. Wow, Chase is on the case.
It is no fluke. It is a fact. The Cincinnati Bengals are headed to Super Bowl 56. The play clock at 3. Shotgun snap. Carr throws into traffic. Intercepted. Jermaine Pratt has the football.
Yeah.
Coffin nails.
Bam, bam, bam. How about that?
Well, hello, Jakey. It's Chatterbox Bengals. You told me to bring you in. This is the intro, and I gotta tell
Would you look at that?
I'm so the boys are back together, and I'm so freaking excited about
That's right.
it. Yeah. Woo.
I'm glad you're here.
That's
Big
my
game.
intro.
Had to get you back in the fold because, well, as we all know, all you do is win here on Chatterbox Bengals. So
1-0. When was the time that I filled in on one of the Tuesdays? I'm 1-0 on Sundays. I filled in one other time.
We don't need to muddy the waters here.
All right, 1-0.
You're a winner.
Undefeated.
You're a winner. You're 1-0.
Undefeated. And I got one against a good team.
That's right, and that's what we'll leave that at, because as we know, the Bengals have beat a lot of good teams this year, as we'll get into by the end of the show. Obviously, that's not the case, but they play a good team this weekend, and that's what we're going to get into today. Jacob Tissa, joined by Reed Mouse, Thursday edition of Chatterbox Bengals, as always, live with you guys at 7 p.m. And the Bengals play the Chargers this week, flexed to Sunday Night Football, and not a huge surprise that they put these two quarterbacks in prime time, two of the top picks in the 2020 draft. A draft night rivalry was kind of made right there as the Chargers took Herbert right after the Bengals took Joe Burrow. And we've only seen them play one time in their career, which is really, really weird for two guys in the same conference, two guys who have put up gaudy numbers since they came into the league. You'd think they would have ran into each other more than that, but just the second time we're going to see Herbert face off against Joe Burrow.
It's interesting because before the Chiefs thing happened, and that's kind of been our rival other than like the divisional rivals and stuff like that. The first 2 years before we went to the Super Bowl, the rivalry was Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, because Herbert looked so good so early. I know he didn't get to play for the first few games, but after he started to play, he looked so good so early that all these Charger fans with a little bit of hubris were like, oh, our guy's better than your guy. They're both amazing.
Right.
They're both amazing. That rivalry has since kind of been quiet. You know what's interesting? You said that they've only played one time, Joe versus Herbert. Joe has played the Chargers 2 times, and both games were weird, man. Both games were weird because the first game was Joe Burrow's first game ever. Right, we played the Chargers, and that's when Randy Bullock broke 2 of his legs on the final play. And then then the second game was when we went down 24-0 in the first 20 minutes of the game. This was our second to last loss before going on the run to the Super Bowl. We went down 24-0 in the first 20 minutes of the game. Almost roared all the way back. We're down. I think you looked this up today. 2 points. 2 points going into the fourth quarter.
I believe so. Yeah. Scored 13 unanswered in the third.
Yeah, and then they ended up losing by 20 points. So there's just weird games when we play the Chargers for whatever reason.
No, and I mean, hopefully we get another memorable one on Sunday night. Hopefully it goes the right way. Obviously, you want the Bengals on top, but with these two going up against each other, you expect a shootout for sure. And I think these two offenses are the headliner of the game, if you will, but certainly can't overlook the Chargers defense. And that's what we're going to get into as we dive deeper into the matchups that matter. But before we get into all that, there have been some big injury updates in Bengals practice throughout this week. Two major pieces of the Bengals offense, which we all know is the key to any victory for this team. Orlando Brown and T. Higgins have not been practicing all week. Well, today, Orlando Brown upgraded to a limited participant in practice. It seems like he's trending towards playing. Don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves again like we did last week when he was out after it seemed like he was going to play basically all week. But it does seem like he is trending towards playing this week, limited in practice today. T. Higgins continues to be limited with that quad injury. Never know whether or not he's going to play with those soft tissue injuries. But I did see someone on Twitter break down how he's ran up the hill on practices with these soft tissue injuries before games. And the route he took straight up the hill today at full speed, he's only taken that route in games that he ends up playing in. So I'm taking that Twitter thread for all it's worth there and hoping that T. Higgins plays this week because we know how big of a piece he is for this offense.
If there's any world in which the Bengals extend T. Higgins in the future, I want to put out that he shouldn't practice. That he should
that's fair.
He should just show up on Sundays. Like yeah, be there for the team meetings and everything. Don't pull a full Jermaine Burton, but we need you there on Sundays. Just show up on Sundays. It's for what the Bengals have done the last two times that they played against the Raiders and the Ravens offensively. The two. 30-plus points, 40-plus points. Not having your third and fourth best offensive player, that's pretty impressive. So, when you're playing a good defense like this, and it seems like every single week is a must-win, and I asked you before we started the show, are you tired of talking about every single game as a must-win, even though it is?
Yeah.
When you're in a must-win, you got to have your third and fourth best guys there. And I think if you were a handicapper and you're putting out a line, what is the line that Orlando Brown plays?
I think he's probably about half a point. I don't know if it's a full point for a left tackle, but with that pass rush, I think not having Orlando Brown and having Cody Ford in there is a big, big deal. And we've seen that over the last few weeks. Cody Ford just simply doesn't cut it.
I was saying, what is minus 400 that he's going to play this Sunday?
Oh, he plays. Yeah. I see.
So.
I thought you meant how much did it affect it. I understand. Yeah. I would say Orlando Brown is a near lock to play. I think he's minus 450, minus 500. I thought he was going to play last week. And I told the nice people on this show on Thursday night that I thought he was going to play last week on Thursday night against the Ravens. Obviously, that wasn't the case. The O-line was tormented all day. Joe Burrow running for his life. Hopefully he's back this week. I hope he will be. It seemed like when he got hurt, they acted like this was going to be an injury that made him miss almost no time. Obviously, when it was first reported, it was tennis knee or tennis leg, whatever the wording was. And then he played the next week, I believe, and now he's been out. And I don't really know why without anything else popping up. Just must be a nagging injury on a player who hasn't missed time in his entire career. This is the most time Orlando Brown has ever missed, high school, college, and NFL. He'd only missed 2 practices before this injury, he said to the Bengals media earlier. So hopefully he's able to get back and stay healthy. You never know how these things can linger on tackles, but he was one of the best in the league when he went down. I think he was PFF's 3rd graded pass protecting tackle when he was hurt. So certainly hope he can come back and play at that high level. And that's even more important because another Bengals offensive lineman popped up on the injury report today. And it's a guy that we haven't exactly been the biggest fans of here on Chatterbox Sports. But if your starters aren't good, what does that mean about your backups? And Alex Kappa popped up on the injury report today with an illness. He was not at practice yesterday, but wasn't listed on the injury report. Today, he did not practice with an illness. I'm not sure how that is going to parlay into this weekend, but a question that we've asked a ton on this show is what's going to happen if anyone gets hurt on the Bengals offensive line, because the depth simply isn't there. The depth is Cody Ford, And he's currently in there for Orlando Brown, who, like we already said, was limited in practice and questionable for this week. If Kappa is unable to go, I don't know who's going to play guard. Maybe we finally see Matt Lee play center. You slide Ted Karras over, which a lot of people have been asking for a few weeks now, but I haven't seen Matt Lee play guard at any level. He was a center only at Miami, and he's the only backup interior guy that we have right now. Unless it's a practice squad guy, which certainly isn't what I would like to play against a Chargers pass rush, which is towards the top of the league in a game that you have to win to stay in the playoff hunt. I certainly hope Alex Kappa can play, but I don't know what the solution is if he can't.
Yeah, listen, it's so when you play an NFL season, you'd be pretty arrogant and ignorant to think that you're going to make it an entire season without injuries on the line. And when you crowd the roster with guys that are injury prone, Orlando Brown wasn't that, but Amarius Mims is, and he's luckily hasn't been hurt seriously. He's been in the 10 a few times. Yeah. And obviously Trent Brown was injury prone. We knew that when we signed him. When you crowd the room with guys that are injury prone, you put yourself in a bad spot later on in the year to where you don't have a whole lot of options. And to be honest, what you do is you cross your fingers and you hope. I think Kappa, I don't know how serious. That's 2 straight practices he hasn't been there for. But for some reason, maybe it's just my big donkey brain. Whenever I see illness on the injury report, it makes me think that they're going to play. I don't know. Like it would have to be.
Yeah, I tend to lean that way as well.
Like it makes you wonder what's the illness, right? Like
right,
and that stuff doesn't get disclosed. But like if he's just feeling under the weather, he's gonna play. Like even he could feel terrible. He'll like, suit up. I don't know how well he'll play, but he'll be there. So I don't have too much concern, I guess, going into Sunday night about Kappa. Hopefully I'm right.
Yeah, for sure. And the other big upgrade that is not on the offensive side of the ball, on the defensive side of the ball, but a huge piece for this team nonetheless, has played great this year for a unit that hasn't been a shining spot for this team. BJ Hill upgraded from a DNP on Wednesday to limited today. That's a huge get for this Bengals defense. BJ Hill has been the only interior defender on this defensive line that's been worth a damn all year long. Everyone else has been absolutely terrible. BJ Hill's been towards the top. He's been phenomenal since he came back from that first injury he had this year that caused him to miss a game. He's been one of the best interior D linemen when it comes to rushing the passer in all of the NFL, and pairing him with Trey Hendrickson has been great. Haven't been able to get any production out of anyone else, so getting him back for this week against the Chargers, who, as we're going to get into, has a phenomenal O-line, is very, very important.
Yeah, to be honest, I've had this take for a while. When it comes to defenses, the thing that separates good teams from great teams, and this defense is nowhere near either one of those, but it's worth mentioning. The thing that separates a good defense from a great defense is, pressure on the middle of that defensive line. It sucks so bad as a guy that tries to defend the Bengals every chance that I get, and I defend hey, you can't bring back Reeder because he's over 30 years old and he's suffering an injury, and to this day I think that was the right call not to sign Reeder again. But when you're not getting any production, it looks terrible, right? It's the same thing that as I always do about Jesse Bates and everything like that. It's like, yeah, I can say that it was a good move not to sign a safety that kind of money, but when you don't get a safety that is worth a darn in 2 years, it makes you look bad. But yeah, it's so imperative that BJ Hill is part of that lean, because this is once again one of the weaker, maybe the weakest point of this entire team is that interior defensive line. Oh, absolutely. And you got to get your starters back out there when it's not good to begin with, and you're scrapping up the bottom. You need your guys.
While we're on BJ Hill, it's a take I've had for a long time here. People kill the Bengals front office and coaching staff for moves they've made over the years all the time, and a lot of times it's warranted. BJ Hill is the best trade this franchise has ever made. A straight swap of Billy Price for BJ Hill is unbelievable production for a guy you took in the first round that didn't do anything in stripes. As a Buckeye fan, I was very happy when we picked Billy Price. Didn't work out. He was one of the worst first-round picks we've made in recent memory, and shipping him off for a guy that's been consistent production is nice.
I think you're being kind to Billy Price when you said it's one of the worst picks that the Bengals have made in recent history. I think
anyone.
I think it's one of the worst picks that the NFL has made. If you draft a center in the first round, you can't miss. You literally just can't miss. And
the other center that went in that first round didn't miss. Frank Ragnow in Detroit has been an all-pro player since he got picked.
Right. I think the other first-round centers that come to mind are Creed Humphreys, right? He might have been even a second-rounder.
He was a second-rounder.
But it's just like you can't.
Linderbaum.
You can't draft a center and not only miss, but like colossally miss to where. But that's beside the point. It is one of the better moves that the Bengals have made. Yeah, they have some value back.
That's right. And they don't make many good moves. So when they do, I like to give them the credit that's due. But the biggest part of this and why you guys always tune in is the matchups. How will the Bengals be able to get this win this weekend? We all know how big it is. Have to beat the Chargers. They're one of the teams ahead of you. They're one of the teams fighting for that wild card spot. You're matching up with a team that, in all honesty, is one of the best in the league. One of the most well-rounded teams in the league, I should say. PFF has them as their 9th overall team. That's the 19th best offense and the 9th best defense. Sorry, the 7th best defense. 9th best rush defense. This team is very, very well-rounded. A really, really good team at a lot of different pieces. And Justin Herbert has taken a massive step in the last 3 or 4 weeks. And I hate to keep using PFF grades, but that's the easiest thing to find. And he's the top graded quarterback over the last 4 weeks, which obviously you could take that with a grain of salt. But what that does mean is that he's playing at a high level and he's not making mistakes. And that's the biggest thing for him because, as we know from that famous playoff meltdown, turnovers have always been his Achilles heel. And he hasn't been turning the ball over as of lately. And the Bengals are going to have to try to be able to turn that around because this Bengals defense has allowed a lot of chunk plays all year long, and that's something that the Chargers thrive on. They haven't been a great rushing defense, but the passing offense has been elite. And then the Bengals secondary, after that Dax Hill injury, even before it, in all honesty, has been a big-time sticking point with this team this whole season. And it's something that the Chargers are going to look to expose this weekend. And with their O-line looking to give Herbert time, we've talked about the injuries on the Bengals defensive line. I'm really worried for this matchup of the Chargers offense against this Bengals defense. But that's not anything new because every week I'm worried about the matchup of our defense against the offense.
It's funny that like that sentence alone it rings so true because it's like, just like, I don't even think about the other team's offense. Cause like, they're going to put up a bunch of points. Fair. They're going to put up a bunch of points. Who cares? Like we can play the Ravens and we can play the Patriots on back-to-back weeks. And I will feel about the exact same. Cause it's like, they're going to put up points. So what's it matter? I'll say this about when it comes to the Chargers, and we can break down, different positions and stuff like this.
Yeah.
When you get to the midpoint of the NFL season, and we're a little beyond that, sometimes things are so obvious and you're mad at yourself for not recognizing it before the season starts. How in the hell did we not how are we allowing ourselves to be a little shocked that the Chargers are this good? Because
that's fair.
Everything about it screamed that they were going to be good. They have a really good quarterback that I don't think would shock anybody if we put him in that elite tier in the coming years. Like if we put Herbert up there with the Joes, Lamars, Josh Allen's, Patrick Mahomes by the middle of next season, I don't think that'd shock anybody in the world because we already kind of put them there. All right, they've got a good group of tackles. They've got a good defense. They've got, this coach that everywhere he's gone has turned around the program, the franchise immediately. Right. He's probably the best football coach on the planet. Like just pure football coach on the planet in Jim Harbaugh. So it's just so funny that we get to like this midpoint in the season. We're like, the Chargers, that's kind of surprising. They're good. It shouldn't. If Herbert, Jim Harbaugh, good line. Like, how do we allow ourselves to get shocked by these things? Like, that was so obvious that this team was going to be good and be a playoff team.
No, I absolutely agree. The Jim Harbaugh turnaround in San Francisco, I feel like, was thrown out of our mind, and we were just using him as the standard model of college coach going to the NFL, and we were comparing him to the Urban Meyers and Nick Sabans, and semi-forgetting the fact that he already did this.
Right.
He already took a team that was picking top 5 and led them to a Super Bowl. And now he's doing it again with a quarterback that's way more talented than Alex Smith ever was. I mean, Alex Smith was a great quarterback. I don't think anyone would argue that Justin Herbert is better at damn near every aspect of playing quarterback than Alex Smith. I mean, he's one of the most talented guys in the entire league when it comes to arm strength and mobility. And now you have a quarterback or a coach who's completely bought into turning around the culture of that organization. And that's been the issue with me with the Chargers for the last, I want to say decade, or at least since they had Phillip Rivers. It felt like a culture problem in San Diego, Los Angeles. Every year, they continued to lose games the same way. It didn't matter what coaches came in, Brandon Staley, Anthony Lynn, they continued to lose the most heartbreaking games imaginable. And their quarterback put up good numbers. Even Phillip Rivers to Justin Herbert's first year put up great numbers. And they still weren't able to get over that hump. And then we really saw it come to a head with Brandon Staley in the playoffs, not being able to get over that hump. But it seems like Jim Harbaugh has taken that Chargers out of there and is just making them a really good football team. And we're seeing it in every aspect of the game, really, except for rushing the ball with their offensively for them. And that's something that has taken a big change over the last few weeks, and something I think the Bengals are going to be able to kind of thrive on this week. The Chargers have not been able to run the ball since about the 4th week of the season. They're the 29th overall rushing offense. And if you remember, J.K. Dobbins led the league in rushing through week 3. So this fall off has been astronomical over the last few weeks. We know the Bengals' run defense hasn't been great this year, but we know the Chargers are going to win this game by throwing the ball. It's going to come down to that back end, and I hope that we aren't looking here on Sunday night and talking about, well, we were wrong. J.K. Dobbins still gashed us with the run. That would be a brutal way to lose this game, but I really do have confidence in this Bengals defense when it comes to stopping their run game, which is not something I've said much this year, but is a good place to be. If you can make a team one-dimensional, you're in a good spot. And I think that's the route the Bengals have to take this week to try to beat the Chargers. You got to limit Justin Herbert.
Yeah, you've got to make them a one-dimensional team. It's so funny if you look at. I'm just pulling up Justin Herbert's game log here. It's almost like Harbaugh, the coaching staff over there for the Chargers, like, wanted to get their feet wet first. Like you mentioned J.K. Dobbins was running the ball the first 3 weeks. Well, like Herbert threw the ball 20 times, 18 times, and 26 times those first 3 weeks. It's like Harbaugh, this is a new team. Let's go to what I know how to do, which is let's just play, smash mouth football. Then they realize, oh, we've got a generational quarterback back there. Let's let him do some good things. 11 touchdowns and 1 interception is absolutely insane there for Justin Herbert. But I like the fact that we can make them one-dimensional. Like, if we can completely take away their run game and we let Trey Hendrickson pin his ear back and get after the quarterback, we should have gotten a few sacks against Lamar Jackson. Like, we should have gotten 2-3 sacks. Herbert's mobile. He's nowhere near Lamar. I like this defense ability. Once again, this defense, we're just asking them to play a little better. Like, we don't need
just a little.
We don't need you to shut anybody out. We don't need you to keep teams under 10. We'd love you to do it. It'd be a lot of fun. But we just need you not to give up mid-30s. And if they're throwing the ball a lot, I like our chances to kind of get Herbert on his back a few times. And that's really the only way that we're going to be able to stop this defense, is getting Herbert on his back, letting Trey kind of cook. And it's going to be tough because I don't know if you know this, but the Chargers tackles, pretty good.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'd say the best tackle duo in the league when healthy, for sure. Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater, 2 first-round picks, 2 top 10 picks over the last couple years. They've been unstoppable all year this year when they've been in the lineup together. And that's why I put so much onus on B.J. Hill's practice availability this week. These two tackles, I know Trey Hendrickson's amazing, and I have faith in Trey Hendrickson at all times in every game against anyone. He's going to make a difference. He will. But against Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater, that is going to be dialed back a little bit. He's not going to be able to wreck the game to the degree he's been wrecking the game in some that we've played this year. I mean, he had a game with nearly double-digit pressures. That's not happening against these 2 tackles. We're going to need the interior of that line to step up. And in all honesty, at this point, 10 weeks into the season, I have no faith in any of those guys stepping up other than if B.J. Hill is healthy and in that lineup. So him being limited in practice today and playing, I think, in continuing to progress and hopefully play this weekend, I think is the most crucial thing to watch. I know everyone's focused on T. Higgins. We know how much he means to this offense. We also saw Jamar Chase go for 11 catches and 250 yards last week. I think BJ Hill is the biggest injury to watch this entire week coming into it, just because of, as you said, how elite those tackles are and how bad our edge opposite of Trey Hendrickson is. You're going to be able to dial in on him, have the other tackle on an island against either Sam Hubbard or Joseph Osai, and we're going to need that interior to make a difference.
Is this the game where Sheldon Rankins makes his money? Is this the game where
I hope.
Is this the game
That'd
where
be nice.
we finally get?
I just would like him to be less than 6 yards away from the quarterback on average.
18
That's 18 feet.
18 feet. That is. I was gonna.
Feet.
Admittedly, I was gonna do inches next, but I didn't have that in the bag. I didn't have the calculator in my brain.
That's some quick math. Yeah.
For 18 times 12. Some people can do that right away. I cannot. But yeah, I mean, what does he have? 1 sack this year? Does he have 1 sack?
So.
1 sack. Let's bump those numbers up. Let's double that bad boy up. Let's just get 1. That's my challenge. You know what? That's my
Sheldon
challenge.
Rankins' 1 sack is tied for 3rd most on the team. So.
Well, who is it? I told this story. We were setting up at AIA, Athletes in Action, for our broadcast, and the Raiders game's on, and they call Chris Jenkins, like, Chris Jenkins with the sack. And I'm like, heck yeah, let's go. And then they show the replay, and it was Desmond Ridder falling down, and then Chris Jenkins just put his hands on him to down him. And I was like, good one.
What a way to get your first NFL sack. I mean, she streamed to that his whole life.
Give me one of those from Sheldon Rankins. That's the ice bucket challenge. It's the sack one guy challenge, Sheldon Rankins.
Okay.
That's the one sack
officially
challenge.
Nominated by Reed Mouse. I like that. I like
Yes.
that. I'd nominate a couple more guys on the team, honestly. Yeah. I would like a couple more guys to get in on the action, because after Trey Hendrickson's league-leading 11 sacks, second most on the team is Sam Hubbard with 2. And then you got Sheldon Rankins, Chris Jenkins, Dax Hill tied at 3rd with 1. Dax Hill, a corner who tore his ACL in week 4.
It's Asa 9, Asa 10, Asa 11 that Trey Hendrickson before the Ravens game was on pace to break the NFL sack record, and the Bengals were 27th in sacks as a team. How is that possible? How is that possible? Not even like doing just the math that one guy is getting all of our sacks. The fact that teams know that Trey Hendrickson is the only guy that's worth a darn pressuring the quarterback, and he's still, it doesn't matter. It's insane. It really is just insane.
No, it is absolutely. And that defense is, we talked about it there, but I mean, you can only ask him to do so much. We know the Chargers are going to be able to get down the field and hopefully not get in the end zone. That's the biggest thing. You're going to have to hold them to field goals. That's how this defense thrives. And that's honestly been the story for years and years now. I know the defense has taken a big turn this season, but for years under Lou Anarumo, it's been in between the 20s. They've thrived. And once the team got down the field, they've been able to hold them to 3. Hopefully that can be the case this weekend, but we all know what the story is for the Bengals when it comes to winning or losing games. This one, a huge one on the schedule, and it's going to come down to the offense, and it's going to come down to Joe Burrow and how he plays and what kind of scheme Zach Taylor's able to draw up against a really, really good Chargers defense. I mentioned it earlier, but that Chargers pass rush is unbelievable. 15th in the league, but that's not exactly showing what they've been able to do this year, because Joey Bosa missed 4 games to start this season. Since he's been back, they have been a completely different unit when it comes to rushing the passer. I mean, they have Tui Tuipulotu, the second-year player out of Utah, the interior defender, has 5.5 sacks this year on the interior. And we're talking about Alex Kappa potentially being out. We know how bad this interior is when he plays. What happens when this backup's in here? This is an interior gun with 5.5 sacks. Khalil Mack with 4.5, Joey Bosa with 3. They spread it around, have a plenty of guys that are able to get to the quarterback. And that really does scare me with this makeshift offensive line. I know I'm focusing on Kappa and that interior, but the importance of Orlando Brown playing this week cannot be overstated. Joe Burrow needs time in this pocket. He cannot be forced to do what he did against the Ravens. He was pressured more than I believe any quarterback this season has been pressured. I'm forgetting his name, Madubuike, the interior D lineman for the Ravens, had 10 pressures alone. 4 of the top 5 pressure leaders in the NFL this past weekend played for the Ravens on Thursday night. Every single player on the Ravens was able to get to the quarterback, and the Chargers have just as many bodies that can get there. So this offensive line is going to have to step up because I don't think Joe can keep doing what he did against the Ravens. You're asking too much.
Joe this year, and I think he's playing the best football of his career. I truly believe that.
I'd agree.
This year has been exceptionally good at escaping pressure. I'll give him credit for that. But as you mentioned, you can't do that. You can't do that every single week. You can't do what he did last week against the Ravens in back-to-back weeks, and he's getting a little more time to prepare for this game. But you can't ask for Joe to scramble around the pocket and make play after play, even though that's what we've seen him do this year. It's just not sustainable enough. It's funny. I was when thinking about the last time we played the Chargers, I went back and viewed that box score, and I think Joe got sacked 7 times that game, which was kind of on par for that entire season. I think it broke the NFL record in sacks, no? For a single season. I mean, also we played a lot more games because we went all the way to the Super Bowl, but it broke the NFL record in sacks. And while I think this offense is going to put up points and continue to put up points, I'm so tired of seeing Joe running for his life. I'm so tired of seeing Joe on his back. We know it's an exceptionally this offense is exceptional when Joe has time. I mean, I stood in Burrowhead Stadium. I'll stand anywhere, and I'll stand up and I'll say, you give 9 time. You keep them upright in the pocket and give them time. You can't stop us. You can't do it. You cannot stop the Bengals from putting points on the board. And with a hobbled offensive line playing the big names, and like I completely forgot that Khalil Mack played for the Chargers till you said that, and Bosa, Khalil Mack, all those names that are just gonna tear after our offensive line. We've got to get a little bit of health. We've got to just make sure that he has just an ounce of time so that he can cook.
Absolutely. And the worry there is with that time, will you be able to pick apart this defense? And you hope so, but the Chargers have been one of the best coverage teams all year long. They have not allowed a single team this season to score over 20 points. They have been a dominant defense, haven't allowed a lot of explosive plays. You certainly hope that Joe's able to be able to pick them apart with time in the pocket. They haven't played a quarterback of his caliber outside of Patrick Mahomes, who they were able to hold to 17 points. Other than that, their schedule has been very light this season. But hopefully the Bengals defense can turn that around, because this Chargers secondary does really, really scare me, because the Bengals are going to have to throw the ball this game. We know that. We know that's how the Bengals win. That's how they're going to have to get the job done. But this Chargers defense has a lot of interceptions this year. 9 picks on the season for this Chargers defense. And if Joe Burrow is throwing the ball 45, 50 times, then you just have to hope that they aren't able to get a turnover in that sense, because we know that's what's going to be able to bite us in the Achilles heel in games like this, because it's going to be high scoring. So the offense has to score damn near every time they have the ball. And if they don't, they can't give up short fields. That's what happened with the Chase Brown fumble. You have to at least punt it away. Every offensive drive has to end in a kick for the Bengals, an extra point, a field goal, or a punt. Otherwise, you're not setting your defense up for success, a defense that we really can't believe in anyway. So capitalizing on this Chargers secondary and not letting them have mistakes that they can seize is going to be the key for this game. And I trust Joe.
Yeah, I do too. And
you have to.
It's we're not breaking new ground when we say the key to winning a football game is not turning the ball over. And I'm gonna give the people watching this show some credit, because obviously they haven't given up 20 points this year. The Chargers haven't. But you look at the teams they've played, and these are the quarterbacks. We'll do it by quarterback. Week 1, they're playing Gardner Minshew. Week 2, they're playing Bryce Young. Week 3, Justin Fields. None of those are great quarterbacks. Play Patrick Mahomes, okay. Bo Nix looks to be okay, but still, it's a rookie quarterback on Week 5. Kyler Murray, you and I both love Kyler Murray, so that's a good quarterback. And then you go Spencer Rattler, Jameis Winston. Did Will Levis play last week? I don't even know who plays for Tennessee. Mason Rudolph. So it's not like we are going to be giving them something that they haven't seen all season long with an elite quarterback and an elite weapon. Patrick Mahomes, elite quarterback, doesn't really have an elite weapon. I mean, you can say Travis Kelce, but I think we all know that the problems that Chiefs offense is having. And then you can go, okay, Kyler Murray, Marvin Harrison, they're not – neither one of them are there yet. Neither one of them are there yet. I mean, it's Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase. We're talking about the guy leading the league in touchdowns, the guy leading the league in passing yards, the guy leading the league in receiving yards, the guy leading the league in receiving touchdowns. We can say that their secondary is all well and good, but this is a challenge for them that they haven't seen the likes of. And like you said, at the end of the day, you just got to trust Joe because he's giving you no reason not to trust him.
And the frustration this season, I think, at the end of the day, comes down to it feels like that's the sentiment in the front office and coaching staff and everywhere else in Cincinnati as well. We'll just trust Joe and hope it all works out. Seems like that was kind of the offseason philosophy this offseason. Hey, we won 9 games with Jake Browning. We'll make a couple changes here and there, and then we'll trust Joe and see how it goes. Hopefully trusting Joe is able to salvage this season because obviously with the trade deadline passed last week, that's where we're at now, and these are the guys we got. So Zach Taylor said he liked them before the trade deadline. You better love them now because these are the horses in your stable, and we're trying to make a playoff push, and this game is crucial for it. It's going to come down to how you use those star players. We just talked about Joe and Jamar and how it falls on them like it always does. The Bengals have to use their stars. Joe Burrow targeted Jamar Chase 17 times last week with 11 catches, none of those catches behind the line of scrimmage. Something Bengals fans have been begging for years now is to eliminate some of that screen game and use Jamar Chase down the field. Well, that's exactly what we saw, and that's going to be the most important thing this weekend. But I'm not just talking about Jamar Chase here. I'm also talking about Chase Brown. It's going to be very, very hard to run the ball against this team. You're going to have to get your ball to your stars in space, and I think when I'm listing the stars on this team of guys I want with the ball in space, Chase Brown is week by week working his way up that list. T. Higgins hopefully plays this week, stays in that number 2 spot, but I think he's third. I think Chase Brown in space is one of the most exciting players, exciting running backs in all of football. I saw a stat that he's the 4th fastest running back in the NFL when it comes to miles per hour through the line of scrimmage. He has more burst than almost anyone in the league.
It's funny. The old slogan is he looks like he's shot out of a cannon. And early on in the year, you and I both are saying Chase Brown has to be our number 1 running back because when Zach Moss was getting the ball, it looked lethargic getting to the line. Then you see Chase Brown, and they talk about this in baseball all the time. It just sounds different coming off the bat. It looks different when Chase Brown gets the ball. It's instant that he's taking off, and I'm right there with you. He's got to be a star. And in terms of just running the ball, you know me. Everyone that's watching this show that has seen my takes before know that my opinion is everyone says, oh, you got to run the ball to be a dynamic team and all that stuff. That's all well and good, but I think we all know at the end of the day when it's time to make the big time plays, when it's time to win games, we're going to have Joe and Jamar with the ball with the game on the line. That being said, you can't throw the ball 58 times like you did against the Ravens. That's not sustainable either. You can't do that to Joe. You can't put him in harm's way 58 times. You can't ask the offensive line to drop back 58 times. All those things. You've got to get some forward movement. You got to get some forward lean with the line. Right. And even with the fumble that he had last week, I still trust Chase Brown. It was incredibly frustrating, but there's a reason that I still want them to hand the ball is because I trust him, and he's quickly becoming as good as running backs that we've had in years past. And we've had really good running backs in this city for a long time now. And I think Chase Brown can do that. You got to get them the ball a little bit. And it can't just be, oh, here's the token run play, right? It can't be, oh, we just got a new set of downs. Here's the run play. Everyone wants us to run the ball. Oh, it's 2nd and 8 now. It's got to be more dynamic than that. And, I'll defend Zach Taylor tooth and nail, and it's becoming harder and harder to do so, admittedly, because of what I'm seeing on the field. It is. The one thing that I've never wavered on when it comes to Zach Taylor is it's pretty clear that the run game of this team isn't dynamic, isn't nearly dynamic enough throughout the years. Joe Mixon, one of the best backs 100%. In the league, it was pretty bland. It was pretty vanilla. Yeah. And we're seeing that with Chase Brown. You gotta get him some looks.
And getting the ball to these guys around the line of scrimmage in space is how you're going to be able to pay dividends against this Chargers defense, because as we talked about how they're elite against the run and elite against the pass, they rank 26th in tackling. That's 6 spots below the Bengals, who we always talk about as one of the worst tackling teams in all of football. We've seen a billion times screenshots of Jamar Chase with 8 guys around him, turns it into a 50-yard touchdown. We've seen it with Chase Brown. in the line of scrimmage, bursts out for a 15-yard run. That is what the Bengals are going to have to capitalize on this weekend. This is a team that has not been able to bring people down in space this season, and we have some of the best players at it in the whole sport. Jamar Chase asked today about why he likes running after the catch. He said, so I don't have to get hit. And honestly, I can't blame him. It feels like it hurts when these guys get hit so hard. And hopefully our guys are getting the ball in space and running all the way to the end zone so they don't have to get hit. You're going to have to scheme some things up, get guys in space, get the ball to your playmakers early and often. That's how you're going to be able to limit the need for Joe to do it all. And I think the key to that is passing to Chase Brown. Like we just said, we have to get him the ball, but you can't run the ball 25 times with a running back like that. It's just not necessarily a feasible way to run an offense, especially the way Zach Taylor runs the offense. And especially if T. Higgins is going to play, we know how much we're going to throw the ball. We have to use that screen game that everyone hates so much as an extension of the run game. Those short passes to Jamar, to Chase Brown. I don't want to do a swing pass on 4th and 1, but I would like to use those plays at different times in the game to get the ball to these guys in different situations. You don't just have to run the deep ball. It's great that we did it last week. It's great that it keeps working. Need to have it as a part of the offense, but the point where this team's going to be able to take the next step and really be a well-rounded unit on offense is when you start to mesh some of that short passing game with the deep passing game. I loved Jamar Chase's route chart last week, but it was a little too deep for my liking. And I know that might be crazy to say because it was deep bombs that were great for touchdowns, and I love that. You got to mix them together. The perfect route tree to me is a guy who's attacking the short, intermediate, and deep parts of the field. Last week, Jamar Chase had little to no touches right around the line of scrimmage, which is where he makes guys miss and can really jolt this offense forward with short touches. So I think taking some of what we did last week with some of what we've done in weeks prior that people hated and mashing those together is how this offense can really reach a new level that we haven't seen this year. And we've seen this offense score 40 points in some NFL games against legitimate contenders. So a next level for this offense, who knows where that could be.
It's so funny. It's so funny that people get so upset about screenplays and stuff like that. Like we don't remember that Jake Browning threw for 350 yards multiple games last year, literally just dunking it down 36 times a game. Now, granted, Joe did that early in the year last year and looked terrible doing it, but you're right. I have a cliche that I say with my friends, and I have all these bits that I do when I watch these games, is the short pass game can be an extension of the run game. Yeah, duh. I've said this before, that I don't give Jamar Chase enough credit because he gets a step or two, he's almost unstoppable to bring down. Like we've got to figure out ways to move the chains or stay ahead of schedule, and it can't just be a handoff on a duo to Chase Brown. Like we've got to get the ball to Jamar. We've got to get the ball dinking it down to one of our a billion tight ends for 3-4 yards on a longer play. Like that is, think about this. Every single one of you guys watching this game, those long drives, those 13-play drives that we've seen Joe Burrow and the Bengals have over the past 4 or 5 weeks, every single one of them look almost the exact same. And that is, here's a 3-yard pass to Drew Sample. Here's a 4-yard pass to Jamar Chase. Here's a handoff to Chase Brown. It's not getting those big chunk plays. It is slow, methodical, moving it down the field, but continuously getting that positive play every single time. You're absolutely right in that we've got to have a team that struggles to tackle the ball in the Chargers, and their defense looks great. Right. But if they're struggling to tackle the ball, we've got to give them as many opportunities to bring us down in open space as humanly possible. We got to get it to Jamar Chase as many times as possible because he's already hard to tackle as is. Let's get him the ball 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage, screen play. Yoshi this time actually block somebody on this on a bubble screen. Let's do those things and just watch to see how this offense flourishes.
The Bengals opened last game against the Ravens exactly like you're talking about there, with one of those patented long drives. 5.5 minutes, 70 yards, 12 plays. Chase Brown had 8 carries on that first drive. It was phenomenal. Running the ball right down their throat, exactly what Bengals fans have been asking for. Chase Brown ended the game with 13 carries. They completely abandoned the run game as the game progressed, and as it started to slip away, they put it all on Joe Burrow and asked him to throw the ball more than I would guess he ever has. Throwing it 56 times is just not a recipe for success. And that's against a Ravens team with a great pass rush, and we're facing the same thing this weekend. You're going to have to remain balanced throughout this game so that these Chargers pass rushers can't just pin their ears back. You can't throw Joe Burrow out to the wolves, and that comes from establishing a run game. And I think another key part of that obviously doesn't fit into feeding your stars, because he can't even hold onto the football for all we know in Cincinnati, but Khalil Herbert's going to have to do something. He's going to have to play in this game at some point. We brought him in here because we don't have another running back. Zach Moss broke his neck, and he's out for the year. Chase Brown's all we got in that backfield. I would like to see a little bit more of Kendall Milton, but I think when you're asking the Bengals to play young talent, you're kind of, screaming at a brick wall. So it's going to be Khalil Herbert and Chase Brown in the backfield, at least for the majority of this game, and I think it needs to be more Khalil Herbert. I'm not necessarily asking you to take the ball out of Chase Brown's hands, but you can't just have one running back. No NFL team in the league with a successful run game has one running back. You have a guy who gets the vast majority of your carries, but you have someone who can take the weight off of his legs for a play here and there, and that's going to be what Khalil Herbert's asked to do for the remainder of this season, and hopefully he can hold on to the football. Do you have any level of expectation for Khalil Herbert helping this offense statistically, or is it more of just a vibes guy having a body in that running back room?
I have a question for you, and that is, at this point in the season, what is your favorite Khalil Herbert memory in stripes?
It would have to be recovering the fumble that they credited to Joe Burrow.
You asked me, do I have any expectations for Khalil Herbert to help this? I don't need it to be 10 carries for 40 yards or anything like that. It's just got to be something. It's literally just got to be something instead of having Chase Brown. It's got to be 3, 4, 5, whatever it is. It's got to be rest. You can't ask a running back to play the majority of the snaps on offense. That's just not how any team operates, as you mentioned. So, in short, yeah, I have expectations for Khalil Herbert, and that is something. Anything. Really, just literally anything. Just keep when you get the ball,
do whatever.
Keep it here, right? Keep it here. It's better in your arms than it is on the turf. It is better. What's the old saying? Ball security is job security. Well, I can promise you, Khalil Herbert, if the next time we go to hand the ball off to you, you drop it, your job's gone, son. Your job is officially done.
That's a fair analysis, and I think I'm in the same boat when it comes to Herbert. He just has to do something, and that's kind of what we've been asking the Bengals to do all year. Every time we've played a team that's either a playoff team or at least on the bubble, it's been, hey, do something, show us something. And the Bengals have failed to really beat a good team at all this season. 4-6 on the year are the Bengals, and those wins are the Panthers, the Giants, the Raiders, and the Browns. Bottom of the barrel teams in this league. Just not what you want to see from a team who was near the top of Super Bowl odds going into the season, but I know the Chargers have a different record, 6-3, but those 6 wins aren't exactly against the top of the league either. Raiders, Panthers, Broncos, Saints, Browns, Titans, also bottom of the barrel teams. I think this is a big-time prove-it game for 2 teams in the AFC wildcard game or wildcard hunt. Both of these teams looking to prove something against another team who's trying to prove something as well. So I guess if the Bengals beat the Chargers and they still haven't beat anyone good, can either of these teams prove anything this weekend?
It's gonna be so funny that if the Chargers can't get a good win this week. They can't. They can't, because if they do, you beat the 4-7 Bengals. Congrats, Harbaugh. Congrats.
Right.
But we can. It's the what was the Sheldon Rankins get a sack challenge? It's the Cincinnati Bengals win a game challenge. Beat a good team challenge. That's where we're at.
I like the beat a good
Sunday.
team challenge.
Yeah. It's for ALS funding. It's beat a good team. It's but no, it's I'm tired of looking at it, and I do think it's a little tiring to do it in NFL period, because the margin between the worst team in the league and the best team in the league, it might look vast, but it's really not that vast. I mean, we saw the Bengals go from nobody to the Super Bowl in one season's time. So if you win a game if you win a game in the NFL, you shouldn't care how it looks, or B, who it's against. You put one in the win column.
100%.
That being said, when you're trying to discredit your opponent, I love it. I love it. The Chargers haven't beaten anybody. 6 wins this year? Congrats. Only one team's above 500 in those 6 wins. You haven't beaten a good team. Last week was a great opportunity for the Cincinnati Bengals playing the Ravens. You had not only a chance to get back to 500 and kind of put yourself square back into, or at least in control of making the postseason. Obviously, you didn't get it done here. This is the biggest opportunity left on the schedule, and I think you said this. I think everyone knows this, that if we've done it for weeks, it's a must-win game. This one is by far the biggest of them. Is because we know if all the roads that lead to getting a wild card spot go against the wild card teams, go against the Steelers, the Broncos, and the Chargers. So you've got to win this one, and it would just be good on Sunday Night Football kind of to show, because I think I think fans of the NFL want to believe in the Bengals. I really do.
They do too.
Like, I think they see our offense and they're like, this team's good.
Because it doesn't make sense that we're bad.
Correct. Well, it does if you watch our defense play more than one snap. But
right. Well, that's fair.
People want to believe in the Cincinnati Bengals. Like, there's a reason that we are on primetime all the time. It's because we're a good watch. Yeah. We are a fun team to watch. And I just kind of want to remind teams in the NFL, like, hey, we want to give you want to cheer for us. Here's a reason to get behind us. Here's a reason that the Cincinnati Bengals team is still a threat. I came in on Friday on Off the Bench, and I said, we are without a doubt the team that no one wants to face as a wild card team. I might rescind that a little bit because I think that whatever other AFC North team doesn't win the division, they're a bigger threat. But I don't know, man. Like, it's just, we got Joe Burrow, we got Jamar Chase. We're gonna put up 30 points. Like, we are a threat. Let's do the beat a good team challenge one week.
That'd be great. I'm all in for it. And this game has massive implications on those playoff odds. I know it's only week 11, but big time swings with a win or loss this week. Winning this week would put the Bengals odds at 54% to make the AFC playoffs. Losing this week drops them to a measly 23. Basically completely out of the picture. You have an uphill fight the rest of the way. Really, the only game you'd have to lose the rest of the way is the Cowboys. Since it's an NFC matchup, you would have dug yourself a pretty big hole when it comes to conference record, and then you would lose the head-to-head against the Chargers as well. So this one cannot be overstated. I know it's the boy who cried wolf that we've sat here every week for the last 5 weeks and said, must win or we're out, and then we lose it, and by Tuesday's show, we're like, well, guys, so we actually found this other path, and it's worked out well for us for the last few weeks. But I think this is officially the end of the road. This is the end of the road. This isn't the BCS system. We don't have a playoff committee. Quality losses don't matter. We need to start stacking some wins here. We got to start stacking wins, and this is where it starts and honestly where it ends. I am going to be up late if we lose on Sunday night trying to find another path to the playoffs, because as of now, I don't see one on that machine. This is an absolute must win. I'm not over-exaggerating this. Am I, Reed?
I think it'd be fun. No, you're not over-exaggerating this. And I just said this. Like, there's a reason, like, we keep doing it. Because when you dig yourself in an 0-3 hole, that's just kind of where you're at. That you keep putting yourself in opportunity. Hey, this is another must-win. It's another must-win. It gets annoying. And I said off the show that maybe you and Craig or you and Elliot on Off the Bench should start coming up. Just open up that thesaurus and figure out different ways to say must-win. Like, it's
we should.
It's a gotta have it. It's what was the other one? Can't lose.
Can't lose.
Just keep tiptoeing around it and just figure out a different way to say it every single week. But it's the biggest game left on the schedule. It just simply is. And you're right. You can't overstate that enough, that if you lose this game, you're 4-7. Barring winning the rest of the schedule, like winning out, it's done. It's done, and you just can't expect yourself to win the last 6 games of the season. So yeah, you're not overstating it. It's the most important game left on the schedule, and just a spoiler alert, that'll be the case every week going forward. Whatever the game is that week, That's the most important game on the schedule. That's not just coaches speak. That's just where the Bengals are at because of the hole that they dug themselves. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is. So go out there, beat one of the best football coaches of all time in Jim Harbaugh. I know a bunch of Ohio State fans didn't like me saying that earlier in the show, but he is. Just face the facts. He's been to 4 different places. He wins immediately wherever he goes. He's a great football coach. He's maybe the best on the planet. And let's renew the rivalry with Justin Herbert, and let's put him on their tail. Let's put them on their tail. We haven't beaten the Chargers yet. Joe Burrow hasn't beaten the Chargers. Let's do it.
I'm all in for that. As a draft guy, I focus on these rivalries, these draft class rivalries. I think it's important to beat the guys that you come in with. And Joe hasn't been able to take care of Justin Herbert yet. Not necessarily a fault of his own. Only played once, but a big, big game this week in prime time that Joe can continue to stake his claim as the number 1 quarterback in the 2020 class. Not sure there's much debate around that now, but can further your stance there as number 1 this week against Justin Herbert. I'm really excited for this one. And Reed's really excited for it, too. And he's so excited for it that he's going to join me afterward.
Yes. I'm going to growl. I'm so excited about it. Be doing it right here. I'll watch the game as I guess I could watch the first half at home. But I'll watch the game on a little laptop as God intended. When God created televisions, he's like on November, whatever this Sunday is going to be. That'd be what, November 17th in the year of our Lord 2024. I want Reed to watch a primetime football game, a must win, cannot lose, a gotta have it game. He's gonna watch it on a 12-inch laptop because that's
if you're really cut out for it, you'll do closing out of the pop-up ads on Stream East or Meth Streams the whole time too. That's how a real man watches primetime football. You battle through the pop-up ads.
Love it, absolutely love it.
Well, that does it for us tonight on this edition of Chatterbox Bengals. We've said it time and time again. Big one this week. Hopefully a lot of songs singing on Sunday night. We'll see you guys then. Thank you so much for tuning in. Jacob Tissett, Reed Mouse. That's Chatterbox Bengals.